Russia-Ukraine news. Wagner's warlord Prigozhin, who went missing. Where is he now? Apparently free and in charge. Alexei Navalny, a leader of the Russian opposition who has been imprisoned since last week, received a harsh judgment when a court handed down a new 19-year sentence in a penal colony. The fate of Wagner's Russian leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, stood in stark contrast. In June, Prigozhin led a failed mutiny that posed Putin with his greatest challenge in over 2 decades of rule in Russia. Furious, Putin made a televised speech warning those on the path of treason that they would be punished even though Prigozhin's troops stopped short of Moscow. After nearly 2 months, the Wagner chief still hasn't done this. The cost of standing up to Putin is obviously variable. The fact that Prigozhin hasn't been keeping a low profile since the June uprising is even more surprising. Prigozhin was spotted by onlookers at the Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg, just weeks after the insurrection, where he shook hands with a Central African Republic (CAR) official. Although Prigozhin's Telegram channel followers are used to seeing him in camouflage and tactical gear, the mercenary boss was recently spotted wearing a polo shirt and mom jeans, giving off the impression that he is more laid back than in recent months. But woe to the poor Russian diplomat who has to explain why Prigozhin is still at large after his forces shot down Russian military aircraft and killed Russian military service members as they advanced on the capital. The Russian ambassador to the UK, Andrei Keelin, was confronted by CNN's Christiane Amanpour about the bizarre spectacle of Prigozhin's post-mutiny appearance. Keelin admitted that Wagner's insurrection could be considered high treason. The ambassador continued, however, saying that Putin has decided to put the past in the past. According to Keelin, when the president qualified it when it started, it was all over. There have been reports of Wagner's success on the battlefield near the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, and now that he is on the move, people are more willing to give credit where credit is due. But Amanpour continued to probe Keelin's answers. What I don't get is why Prigozhin, who tried to commit a coup against the Kremlin, perhaps even against the president himself, an armed coup, is still roaming free in Russia while people like incarcerated dissident Vladimir Kara-Murza, the intellectual, others, Navalny are in jail for verbally protesting and disagreeing with the Russian government. Why isn't he in jail for treason after being photographed with African leaders at this week's summit in St. Petersburg? At first, Keelin avoided answering, claiming that he had forgotten Russian soldiers had been killed in the Wagner mutiny. When Amanpour pressed him further, Keelin admitted that he did not know why. Longtime onlookers are also curious about what lies in store for Prigozhin. Despite their declining statures, experts believe that the Wagner boss still has value to Putin. Candace Rondo, director of New America's open-source intelligence service Future Frontlines, said, Prigozhin's stock with the Kremlin has clearly taken a hit. But since Putin lost even more stock after the mutiny, it seems he believes some utility remains in keeping Prigozhin around. According to Rondo, Putin's Russia, which has been hit by sweeping Western economic sanctions, can benefit from Prigozhin's business savvy and his ability to conceal commercial gains through an opaque network of front companies and offshore operations. At this point, Prigozhin's networks of shell companies are the best insurance Putin has to keep Russia's war economy, she explained. But I doubt that will continue indefinitely. Sooner or later, something will have to give. Once that happens, there's a good chance more spectacular things will happen near the border of Poland and Belarus. When Rondo mentioned the recent relocation of some Wagner fighters to Belarus, he was referring to that. Poland, a member of NATO located next door to Belarus, is understandably concerned by the move, which appears to be part of a deal brokered to end the mutiny in June. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki recently claimed that 100 Wagner troops were headed toward the narrow strip of land separating Poland and Lithuania, possibly with the intention of crossing the border into Poland while pretending to be migrants. It's unknown how many Wagner soldiers are currently stationed in Belarus or if they have access to heavy weaponry. Morawiecki seemed to indicate, however, that one way in which Wagner could be up to no good would be to promote destabilization along NATO's eastern frontier. Wagner's imprint in Africa. Wagner has already conducted a series of operations in Africa, a continent that is both vulnerable and unstable, and this is just one part of Prigozhin's plans. Prigozhin suggested, after the Wagner fighters had moved to Belarus, that he still had his sights set on the crucial African market. A recording of Prigozhin saying, "To ensure that there are no secrets and behind-the-scenes conversations, I am informing you that the Wagner Group continues its activities in Africa, as well as at the training centers in Belarus," was posted to Telegram accounts associated with the Wagner Group. Wagner has supplied the militia fighting the Sudanese army, which means that Prigozhin's forces are already involved in events there, and they have also been active in the Central African Republic and Libya. After a recent military coup in Niger threatened to spark a major regional crisis, he may also see openings there. Prigozhin recently dropped a hint via Telegram that Wagner could soon begin offering its services in the area. In his words, "What happened in Niger has been brewing for years," Prigozhin explained. "The former colonialists are attempting to maintain control over the populations of African countries. The former colonizers are stockpiling terrorist groups and guerrilla armies in these nations to maintain control. As a result, a major security crisis has emerged." Then came the sales pitch from hell. "As a result, the population suffers," he concluded. "And this is why everybody adores PMC Wagner. This is the incredible effectiveness of PMC Wagner in action. For the simple reason that 1,000 PMC Wagner soldiers can restore law and order and wipe out terrorists, protecting civilians from harm. That could be disregarded as empty bravado and attempts at making a sale." It should be noted, however, that the Russian Foreign Ministry's position, which called for the prompt release of Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum by the military, was at odds with Prigozhin's sales pitch. And that's where things in Russia still have the potential to heat up. Prigozhin appears to have established an alternative power base to the Kremlin by defying Putin and avoiding punishment. Senior fellow at the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center Tatiana Stanovaya recently analyzed how Prigozhin had effectively chipped away at the power vertical, Putin's long-standing system of top-down rule. Putin's much-hyped power vertical has disappeared, she argued. Although they may be more predictable than the Wagner leader, the dozens of mini Prigozhins are still a threat. Even though Putin is still in control, everyone in Russia is aware that a post-Putin era has begun, and they must now arm themselves in preparation for a struggle for control.